Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bobby Zen, and today we are going to continue part 2 of our Ariana Grande Thank You Next Perfume Bottle Model. Now, before we get into it, part 2, we are going to be focusing on the cap, texturing, the logo placement, and then also lighting. So that's what you can look forward to in this video. We are going to jump right into it, and I already have a cap here that I just added a cube, added a subdivision, and then went ahead and beveled out just to give it some smooth sides. What you'll see that I'm doing here is actually using the mask tool in sculpting. This is my actual first time ever using the masking tool in the sculpting, and you'll notice here it allows you to draw geometry onto the surface and then extract it off the surface and kind of play around with the dimensions, the inner, the outer, the rim, and all of those things, the edge details. Now, what I need for the top, there is an engraved X on either side of the Y, and then there's an engraved O on the either side of the X axis. So I'm looking here to just create the X and the O. Now, with the masking tool, it's super cool, and I'm really glad that I learned how to kind of play around with it, but it doesn't quite work for this project. So this is not a critical part of this workflow video, but I do want to mention that I did try it, and this is again not a tutorial but kind of like a fumble through. So I used the mask tool, I created the X, I went up to mask, and I extracted the X from the front of my perfume cap. Now I'm using the mesh filter, and I think it's the mesh filter. Yeah, the mesh filter. And basically what you do is you select the mesh filter, you right click anywhere on the screen, and you kind of scrub it left and right. That's going to allow you to kind of play with the edges of your geometry. So it'll either make it extremely smooth or give it kind of a ripple effect. And you'll kind of see me do that here, where it's kind of like changing the geometry. Now, this is an absolutely cool tool that I think could work for future projects, but for this particular one, I needed the X to be absolutely perfect. So I scrapped that idea and I decided I'm just gonna add a mesh, a cube, go ahead and scale it down on the X and the Y axis, and just create this X here that you can see. You can see it now in the reference there. So if you notice, it's a perfect X from corner to corner. And I realized that I simply needed to just create one piece of the X, mirror it, and we are in business. Now, there is something that I did learn while doing this X that I would change, or if you have any ideas when we get to that portion of the video, definitely let me know what you might have done in this particular circumstance. But I basically just shrunk it down, shrunk our cube down, made it into a very thin rectangle, and felt like using the knife tool would be plenty, would be minimal effort, and it would get me the result that I'm looking for. So I'm just playing around a bit with the scale and making sure that I can create the look that I'm going for. So you'll notice me just kind of like playing a lot. And the thing that I love about this type of just kind of like going with the flow kind of workflow is like, this is what Blender is for me. Like, I'm just fumbling through, I'm just trying a bunch of ideas. Some things work, some things don't. But you know, we get there in the end. But like I mentioned, I just created one half of the X, used the mirror modifier, and now we have a perfect X. The only thing that I'm required to do now is to cut off the excess edges that we don't need. And I knew that the knife tool would be absolutely perfect for that. So you'll see me now just cutting where I need to cut. I'm just following the reference here, and I'm cutting from the top to create like that really sharp X area right there. And then I'm just gonna cut across the X axis straight across, chop that up, and I'm just gonna get rid of those faces. If you think that you have a better way that you would have modeled this, or something that could have been more efficient, quicker, if you have a shortcut that you would love to pass along, I would love to hear that. But for now, I simply just I used the knife tool and it worked just fine for me. So I'm deleting some faces. I will eventually have to delete some edges as well. I'm not completely sure what that's all about, but I did. So I'm deleting the edges. I'm deleting the faces that are necessary until I can get the shape that I am looking for. Now, what I think I would have done, and I will go back into the render and adjust, is the middle faces where the two pieces cross. I think once I apply the mirror modifier and this becomes its own geometry, I need to hollow that out because they overlap. When the lighting is going through the cap, I am noticing a little bit of like color distortion. If you know what I'm saying, if you have any ideas on what I'm talking about, drop it down in the comments for sure. So I would have adjusted that and I would have changed that, but it wasn't so critical to this project that I had to do that, so I kind of forgot about it. But learn this is a learning process. This is why I love doing these projects because I do learn a lot as I'm working on these projects. So the X is just about perfect. I think it looks awesome. I'm really happy how it turned out. And I again just used that same mirror modifier and I also mirrored it on the Y axis. So it just looks great. I think it just fits perfectly. It's exactly how the reference looks. I'm making it, flush with the perfume cap, and then we'll go ahead and start working on the O. So there's X on the either side of the Y axis, and then there is an O on either side of the O axis. So we are going to simply, here I go again, like playing with the bevel modifiers because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And if you guys have any idea what that's all about, I would love to get into the science and dive a lot deeper into why bevels work sometimes and other times they don't quite work. But just checking out the reference in real time, I just started kind of playing with the dimensions of the cap and making sure that it just looked appropriate. To be honest, I think I could have centered it a little bit better, but I think we're okay. So we're adding in a circle. This is one of my favorite pieces of geometry, like one of my favorite meshes. I feel like you can make anything out of a circle. So I love adding a circle and then filling it and then creating geometry. I don't know, there's just something really satisfying about starting here and then coming up with something super cool. But anyway, I digress. So we're creating a circle. We're just getting the dimensions right. I have all those vertices selected. I'm going to extrude it. I extruded a couple times. I do a bunch of different things. But we just want to get that same look with the letter O. So I think at a certain point I extrude it. My plan is to just like fill either side. And then I'm thinking, I could simply just use a solidify modifier and allow that to create the O for me as I make it more solid. And I'm just, again, fumbling around playing with settings. And that's how you learn a lot about settings too, by just kind of like fumbling around with them. So I'm just taking the solidify modifier and kind of letting it work its magic to see if it's going to give me the results I need. So I do eventually take this and I'm like, oh my God, the back is not filled. Do I need to go back and like fill the geometry? But then I thought of it and I was like, it's going inside of the cap and it's not to be seen really. So I thought I could just like hide it away into the cap, but I do think that I eventually go ahead and fix it. Like the perfectionist in me was like, you need to just go ahead and fix that O because it's not what we're looking for. So I go ahead and I pull the O out again and I kind of just like bring it down a little bit. I think we're going to add another modify to it. Yes, we just add a subdivision modifier. Just make it look a lot better. And we're playing again with all of those edge details. It's not quite doing what I want it to do. So we kind of just leave that alone. I think the inner crease kind of adjusts a little bit for me, but not too much. But we kind of get that O looking a lot better. And I'm very pleased with that result. I'm pleased with the depth of it and just how good it looks. It just looks really, really good and very close to the model. So we got the O going and we're going to use that good old fashioned mirror modifier and we're just going to mirror it on the opposite side. And that's basically what we're looking at when we are doing the lid here. I'm just very, very pleased with it. I'm very pleased that I'm in a space that my brain is starting to function and my brain is starting to function in a way that I am kind of just like problem solving through all of my work here. So we are done. We're done with the top for the most part. So now we just need to kind of focus on the perfume bottle itself. The last time I left you, the perfume bottle wasn't quite modeled. It was just there to create that Boolean object. So I'm just going to add a nice bevel, a solidify modifier, just to give it a little bit of a curvature on the outer parts of the sphere. But other than that, this bottle is very, very simple. So I did not have to do much. I just wanted to give it a nice bevel. I mean, a bevel really amps up your animation a whole notch, or your render like a whole notch. I love a good bevel. That's why I'm interested in like kind of perfecting them. But anyway, I'm just doing some final tweaks. Look at me playing with the angles, trying to figure out why isn't this bevel quite doing what I want it to do. But I recognize that once we texture, we'll be good to go. So we're gonna get into our scene. It started out as a pretty basic scene. Okay, so you'll notice in the thumbnail, it is not gonna look anything like what the end of this video is gonna look like. But it started out as a pretty simple scene. So I love to just create a plane, extrude on the Z, the back of the plane, add a bevel in the corner to give it that nice like cloth backdrop look, shade smooth it, and there's my background. Give it a nice solid color. Boom, Bob's your uncle. Here I go again with another circle, and I decided that I'm going to put this perfume on a platform. When I was doing my research on the Thank You Next perfume, they did have an image on the Ulta Beauty website that the perfume was just placed on this adorable little platform. So I was like, I can do that. I can make a platform. So we are just giving our Thank You Next bottle a little home, a little place to live on top of having that backdrop so that it can support the lighting that we're going to add to the scene later on. We are back at the base of this bottle. And when I tell you the base of this bottle is going to haunt me, because in the reference image, this is what the base of the bottle looks like. So I followed the reference. It is straight across, or at least in the image, it looks like it's straight across. In the physical bottle that I have with me, there is a slight curve, and I just kept going back and forth trying to decide which it was. So you'll see me constantly going back to that base, but I do eventually leave it alone. Now we're on to lighting. I just added 3 simple lightings. I think it's called Tri-Light, Tri-Lamp Fill, actually, and you can enable that in your preferences. It's already built into Blender, but it creates the 3-point light system for you. So this I find extremely useful because I am not someone that is just like so well versed in lighting. I can give you your basic setup, but that is something that I'm hoping to get much, much, much better at. So I like to use that the Tri-Light Fill any chance that I can. And now I'm basically just doing the texture for our bottle. I'm kind of just playing around with it. I always try to remember that the lighting around me, I do eventually use an HDRI, is going to adjust and shift the shades of these objects. So I'm just going in and I'm adding glass I think it's glass BSDF shaders, and I'm just inputting that right into the material. Nothing fancy about this shading by any means. I might play around a little bit with the roughness and things like that, but we keep it extremely basic because it is just a solid cotton candy pink on the heart broken, the broken heart piece of this. And then it's just like a really pretty light pink bottle as well. So pretty simple. I didn't have to go too crazy with the texturing. I did put a bump on the glass bottle because I did want it to have a little bit more depth and dimension. But outside of that, the texturing and the material was pretty straightforward and pretty basic. And I love this. I love this really simple scene. I think it's adorable. But what you'll notice is like I am in need of so much more lighting, like so much more. So I go into my Blender folder, I find an HDRI that's kind of like bright and giving, and I'm like, ooh, I really like this one. I like the pink that it's creating because it's more real to the one that I'm looking at in front of me. So I just go ahead and turn down my lighting that I inserted in the scene, and I gave one of those lights, I think it's like the key light, I gave it a little bit of a warm yellow tone just to kind of balance out all the coldness that we have going on in the scene. And I do tweak the lighting and the HDRI strength and all of that a whole lot throughout the tutorials. There's a bunch of parts because I do keep building on it, building on it, building on it. And by the end of it, we're going to have this crazy fluid simulation with multiple fluids and all these different things that I've learned. And I'm so excited to share all of that with you guys, of course. So here we go again, back into the base of this bottle. I mean, it was literally kind of like the bane of my existence. It just like wasn't giving what it needed to give. I just needed it to curve a little bit more. And I understand that I could have gone into sculpt mode, but I find that when I go into sculpt mode to try to adjust things, move things around, it's not only uneven, but it just gives more of a freehand look. And some things that's fantastic, but for something like this that is so precise, I have not mastered how to be extremely precise in sculpt mode. And I'm sure there's like proportional editing and all of those things that I could use. I'm just not completely sure how to do that. So if you guys have any tips, tricks, things like that, or watching me struggle through this portion, because you can kind of see there are vertices that are no longer attached. It's giving like this weird bendy look. I was like, oh, I can fill it, but then it was making it look crooked. I just hated it. And it didn't matter in the end because the way that I was setting up the scene, you weren't even going to be able to see the base at all. So I was like, we're going to leave it. It's fine. We're going to just start focusing on the logo. Now, I love doing the logo parts of these perfume bottles. I don't know what it is about this, but this really gets me going. Like, to look at a logo and try to figure out how I can conquer it is like, there's something about it. I really like it. So I was like, okay, all the letters are lowercase. Love that. I recognize that the material is just a simple metallic material. So I felt confident going into this one. Now, another thing I pride myself on is I like to get the font as close to, if not the exact font that the product uses. So Ariana Grande's font was very specific. The way that her A curved, the way that the points of all of her letters kind of met at a very like gentle point versus it being a little bit more bulky. So I went on um, Defont.com, and I found this particular font that fit very, very closely to what I was looking at the bottle. And I think it looks amazing. I think it looks awesome. So I imported that font. I used that. And now I'm just playing around with the location of the logo so that I can place it onto the bottle, no problem. And then all I have to do is simply texture. Her logo is extremely simple, straight to the point, very, very simple and classy. And I really did enjoy typing her name and then coloring it, right? But finding the font was actually really fun and trying to just like solve that little mystery. And I'm sure I could have found one even more perfect, but I was looking for quite some time. So I'm just playing around with the spacing, the wording. I'm looking at the physical logo in front of me and just kind of making sure that it feels genuine to the product. So I'm just going to take it and get it onto the bottle, shrink it down to, a size that feels appropriate to the actual bottle. And then we're just going to do a simple shader for this because it is like super basic. It's just like a silver plate over top of it. And that is all. But it's like once you get the logo onto your bottle, it's like things really start coming together. Like, I feel like once the logo is on and the texturing is starting to happen, I do start to get excited. So once I got to this point in the product process, I was feeling good. I was feeling motivated. I was feeling optimistic and excited and extremely proud of myself. So I love how this is turning out. So you'll just see me make a few more tweaks here and there, but I think she is looking absolutely stunning. And it's almost like a sticker. So I don't need to extrude. I don't need to anything. It is just the letters on the bottle. And that is all she wrote. So we are going to pretty much wrap this up. We're going to get this texturing, this HDRI. We're going to put everything together. We are going to open up that plane. We're going to unhide it. We are going to get our lighting back. So this is the HDRI that I used. I've had it for a while, so forgive me that I can't tell you exactly where I got it from. But with the HDRI, the lighting that I imported, the platform, and all of that jazz, this is where we get with our project. And I am so, so, so very excited about getting to this point. So I think this is about it, you guys. Before we get to the very end, I just want to say thank you to all of my new subscribers. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It literally helps so much. I am like 2 subscribers away from 100 subscribers. So I am so like freaking excited about that because I never thought in a million years, but I want to just keep improving, keep getting better, and eventually be able to do like live tutorials with you guys. So I just want to say thank you so much for your support. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for the feedback. You have no idea how much it all means to me. I'm so excited to continue on this blender journey. I hope you enjoy making this perfume bottle with me because I am really enjoying this journey of like challenging myself with modeling perfume bottles. This has been a really, really fun undertaking to take on, and I'm really grateful for all of you being on this journey with me. So I will see you for part 3 of the Ariana Grande Thank You Next perfume model that we are doing. Thank you guys so much. If you find something that zens you out, don't forget to do it. Have a beautiful rest of your day, evening, night, wherever you are. Thank you guys.